Hey everybody, welcome to the T3S fight preview of UFC 252, aka the DC Stipe 3 matchup, plus the Sugar Show versus Chito Vera matchup as well. We got a great show today, and today joining me, I got a little special guest coming from Albuquerque, New Mexico, Mr. Matthew Powell. There's my little clap because we got no one else. It's going to be great. Matthew and I, back in the day, we used to talk fights during my sophomore year of college. Me and him used to go toe to toe with our crazy roommate who used to always be wrong about fights. It went back to the Rose Namajunas, Joanna, I can't even say last name, Joanna fights, but our crazy roommate was like, yeah, Joanna's got her. And then Matt and I were like, dude, no chance. Rose has got her. And sure enough, Rose KO'd that bitch. And since then, we've had a pretty good report on fighting and stuff. So I thought it would be perfect to bring Matt in this fight. And I think we're gonna start with the first few fights of the main card, and then we'll spend a lot more time on the DC fight and the Sugar Show fight. So yeah, let's get started. We got Herbert Burns against Daniel Pineda in the first fight. Herbert Burns comes in with 11-2 record. He's a negative 280 favorite. Daniel Pineda comes in with an 18-11 record. He's a plus 230 underdog. When we look at the measurables, Herbert Burns is 5'9", 145 with a 73.5 inch reach. And then Daniel Pineda is 5'7", 145 with a 70 inch reach. So Herbert Burns comes in with a 3.5 inch reach advantage. Besides that, they're pretty comparable when it comes to the tail of the tape. Matt, what are you looking at when you are breaking down this fight? What do you see in these two guys?
Yeah,
what they bring to the table?
As you said, Herbert Burns definitely has the more reach, but Daniel Pineda has way more experience, and they both have fantastic grappling. I think we were talking about it, and you said Herbert Burns has 100% takedown defense, right?
Yeah, and also takedown accuracy, which is extremely impressive. Now, that is a little skewed because it's just in the UFC, and he hasn't been in the UFC for that long, but still, it's extremely impressive.
Mm-hmm. I definitely agree with you there. Yeah, his overall record in MMA is 11-2 compared to Pineda's 26-13. But I think his inexperience and his youth are too much for Daniel, and he's going to win by decision.
Yeah, I think so too. Except for, I think Burns is going to win, but I'm thinking a first-round submission. I think his grappling and submission is a little bit more superior to Daniel Pineda. And he starts the fight extremely quickly, and I think he'll be able to get him to the ground and pin him and submit him. From what we've seen from him and also his brother, Gilbert Burns, who should have that fight against Usman coming up soon. They're some of the best submission artists in the game. They're really known for it, and he should get this done. But I could totally see this going to a decision as well if Daniel Pineda is able to get out of the first round, and it could just become a thing where they're basically on the ground for 3 rounds and they're trying to submit each other, but they're just going neck and neck the whole way. I could see that too. I think just Herbert Burns, he's going to, because of his 100% takedown accuracy and defense, he's just going to be able to rack up more points by getting more takedowns and more takedown stops. So that's the way I see that fight going. Moving on to the next fight, we got like a manlet fight going on. We got two little guys. We got John the Magician Dodson, corny ass nickname, against Marab the Machine, aka Bert Kreischer. I can't even say his last name. Davalishvili. John Dodson's coming in at 22-11, and then the Machine is coming in at 11-4 record. The Machine is a negative 240 favorite, and Dodson is a plus 200 underdog. Dodson's 5'3", 135, really small dude. He honestly could be a soccer player. He has got a 66-inch reach, and then the Machine is 5'6", 135. He's got 68-inch reach, so little bit more reach advantage. Matt, how do you see this fight going?
Yeah, I mean, I see with John Dodson, every loss that he had in his long fighting career has all been by decision. And he has a lot more experience fighting in the UFC than Marib does. That height and reach advantage will definitely help out Marib, as well as he has only 4 losses. But I see John Dodson coming out of this with the decision win.
Yeah, I think so too. No question this fight's going to go decision. Both these guys always have fights that last extremely long. Let me pull up the stats real quick.
Yeah,
the average time.
They seem like they lack that knockout power. And
now Dodson, he has had a few wins by knockout, and that does give him a little bit of an edge in this. He is a better striker than the Machine. But the average fight time for these guys, the Machine is literally averaging decision every single fight, like 15-minute average, and then Dodson is 13 minutes and 32 seconds. So this is for sure going the distance. Not that anyone really wants to see that, honestly. We want to get to the fights later in the night, but I guess I'll give people a long time to, eat some food, drink a little bit, do something else.
Get in that right state of mind.
Yeah, exactly. But I think we were talking about this before we started the show, but I think both of us have this going decision win to Dodson. Why do you have Dodson winning, Matt?
Bro, he fights out of the queue. Gotta rep those hometown heroes.
Yeah, that's kind of how I see it too. I originally had the Machine, but I was just like, Dodson, he fights out of the queue. He's got this afro going, he's ranked a little bit higher. It's just like it's really neck and neck, but those little edges pushed it over for me. So I have Dodson winning a decision too. It's basically it for that fight. Honestly, if you want to skip that, we don't blame you. We probably will too. The next fight is going to be a lot more exciting. We go from the manlets in the featherweight division to the big boys up in heavyweight. We got the veteran Junior Dos Santos against, let me try to pronounce his name correctly. Tough night for these names. We got Jairzinho Rozenstruik. Let's go. Nailed it.
Pretty good.
We got Junior Dos Santos is number 5 coming in, and Jairzinho is number 6. Both these guys are coming off losses. Jairzinho just got his head punched off his shoulders against Ngannou, which honestly can't blame him because that dude's so dangerous. He really is. He got KO'd in 20 seconds. He just got caught. Junior Dos Santos has lost 2 straight, and he's looking to bounce back. Junior Dos Santos comes in with a 21-7 record, and Jairzinho comes in with a 10-1 record. Jairzinho is the favorite at negative 135. Junior Dos Santos is plus 115. Looking at their measurables, Junior Dos Santos is 6'4", 238 with a 77-inch reach. And then Jairzinho's 6'4", 242 at 78-inch reach. So they're basically the same measurable-wise. Record-wise, Jairzinho obviously is not as experienced as Junior Dos Santos, so that will probably play a role. What else do you see going on with this fight, Matt?
I see that looking at their stats of their, combined 40 fights, only 6 of them have gone to decision, and that's all Junior Dos Santos. So you can put a pretty solid, confident bet that this fight is going to be ended by knockout.
Yeah, absolutely. Getting some stats on that. 90% of Jairzinho's wins are by KO. So 9 of his 11 fights have been by KO. and then 71% of Junior Dos Santos fights have been by KO. So it's definitely going to be a knockout for sure. The question is by who and by what rounds. Who do you have winning this and what round, Matt?
Before I get to that, I know you were having some fun with Jairzinho's name. Did you see his where he's fighting out of from?
Where's he fighting out of?
Paramaribo, Suriname.
What? You know, if there's a gun held to my head and they're like, okay, find that on a map, it's over. I'm done. If this was to make to make a millionaire or whatever, like I would use my lifeline. I use the audience. They wouldn't know either. Like there's no chance.
Use the 50-50 split, audience help and the lifeline.
No chance. Still losing. That's interesting though. Yeah, and then Junior Dos Santos is coming out of Brazil, so obviously he has a little bit of that jiu-jitsu background. That'll play a role in this too. But getting back to my question earlier, who do you have winning this in what round?
I have Jairzinho. I am sorry for butchering your name, man. You can come punch me in the face for that later. But
I mean, he's not going to be listening.
He's probably just happy we're giving him publicity.
Seriously.
I have him with the surprise win in the second round knockout.
Yeah, I guess we're on the same page. I also have him with the second round KO. The way I look at this is he's just a little bit younger, fresher. Junior Dos Santos has been through the mill for a long time. He's been KO'd twice recently.
Yeah, I think that's huge. He either bounces back this fight or he loses this fight and then retires.
Yeah, I can see that too, which, by the way, this could be a whole night of retirements. We'll talk about that a little bit later. But, yeah, Jairzinho's fresher. He's more explosive. I think the question is, how is he going to knock him out? I think it'll probably be by punches. Both these guys are going to throw some impressive kicks, but I think Jairzinho has a lot heavier hands, and he's going to be able to probably catch Junior Dos Santos with a punch and then probably hit him with some hammer fist on the ground, and probably the judge will step in. We'll see which judge we got today. Hopefully it's not Herb Dean or Junior Dos Santos is going to be just asleep and still taking punches. Yeah. But
the Herb, he used to be a fantastic ref, but it seems like as of late he doesn't have as much energy or passion for his job as he used to back in the earlier days.
Well, it's probably like a fighter. Like he's been doing this for so long. Like over time, you probably get a little bit worse. Maybe that's the case, or maybe just like it's also a pressure thing too. You know, it's really hard after every fight. Like everyone on Twitter is just blowing you up because you didn't stop it fast enough by like a second or two. Like it's such a difficult job. Yeah. I would never want to work it for sure.
No, I agree completely. It's like you stop it too fast, you get flack. You don't stop it fast enough, you get flack. You stop it in the right spot, and you get flack for not giving him more time. Like it's like, what do you do? You can't win.
Yeah, it's so difficult. Like, why don't we just go back to the old rules where there's no stoppage? We just go till they're asleep. Come on now.
Yeah, I've actually seen the highlights for UFC 1. I can't remember who was fighting, but it was it was one of the Gracie brothers who won like the first 3 UFCs in a row. Mm-hmm. They were like tournaments. Like you fought against everyone that single night. But the dude he fought against for the championship, he broke his hand in like the first round, beat someone with the broken hand, but then couldn't hang with the Gracie brother.
Yeah, the Gracie brother was the first person to introduce jiu-jitsu, and it was so effective. All the other guys were just like roided out. It's just like, oh, I'm just gonna punch you to death. Or like I remember seeing they were throwing like head stomps. One guy was like a sumo wrestler.
Yeah,
what the hell is going on?
That was a pretty entertaining fight. The sumo wrestler just put his head down and charged and just didn't even make it 4 steps before getting just straight tossed to the ground with the knockout.
Bro, those old days were wild. Dana White needs to have one tournament like that. I know probably legally it's probably not okay at this point, but if he can make it work, that'd be amazing.
For the people.
Yeah, absolutely. Have a sumo fighter, have everyone on roids, have one really small dude who's good at jujitsu, and then also have some boxer with one glove on the whole time. We would love to see it for sure. Dana, if you're one of our 5 listeners, please make it happen. But getting back to the fights tonight, we got the co-main event next, and I think everyone in the world is so excited to see this. We got Sean Sugar Show O'Malley against Marlon Chito Vera. It's going to be freaking exciting. Sean Sugar Show O'Malley comes in 12-0. He's the next big star in the UFC. Chito Vera is trying to give him that first L. He comes in with a 15-6-1 record. Sugar Show comes in as a negative 300 favorite, which I think is a little generous, honestly. Chito Vera is a plus 230 favorite. Sugar Show comes off winning against Eddie Wineland, the dude with the handlebar mustache that he just put to sleep.
With the impressive walk-off knockout.
Dog, that fight, I'm just like, the whole time he's just kind of going in and out, in and out. It's like, okay, they're kind of neck and neck right now, and he just puts him to sleep. It's like, oh, shit. I did not expect that to happen. And then, Marlon Chito Vera, he comes in winning 5 of the last 6. He just lost to Yadong Song. That's a fun name to say, Yadong Song. But he's been impressive in the fight with the 5 wins that he had. Measurables wise, Sean O'Malley comes in as the taller fighter, 5'11", 135, 72-inch reach. Chito Vera comes in as 5'8", 135, with a 70.5 reach. Sugar Show's got the longer reach and the longer legs in this matchup. Fighting style wise, how do you see these two, Matt? Like, how they like to fight? What are their advantages? What are their disadvantages in their fighting styles?
Sugar Show definitely has the advantage in his striking, but Marlon Vera definitely has the superior grappling. I think this is going to be the first biggest test of Sugar Show's career. This is going to be if he's really the real deal or if he's just fought a bunch of garbage fighters, and that's why he looks so impressive.
Yeah, I think the people that are saying the odds are just like, they think he's just going to go through this fight easily. This is going to be a real test for Sugar Show. Marlon Vera is just extremely impressive. In the fights I've seen, he's been extremely explosive. He mixes up a lot of his striking ability. He's throwing punch, elbows, kicks, all these different things. And then he does have the edge when it comes to wrestling and grappling. Sugar Show has not spent a lot of time on his back. He hasn't really shown what he's capable on the ground. And I think Chito Vera is going to try to take advantage of that and see what he's made of. If Sugar Show is on the ground for most of the fight, it's definitely going to shift towards Chito. Anything else you're saying on this fight?
Yeah, I definitely agree with you saying that Marlon Vera is definitely the more experienced fighter. And if he's able to use that experience against Sugar Show and control the pacing of the fight, I definitely think that he's going to have the advantage there, especially in his 6 losses. He's never been knocked out or submitted. They've all gone decisions.
Yeah, that's a big factor. Let's look at the stats real quick of the average fight time. But Sugar Show has not fought too many fights past, I think, 2 rounds.
Yeah, so that's another big thing. If they do go to that 3rd round, that's somewhere where Sugar's never been into. So he doesn't have that. He might not have the endurance to go that long.
Yeah, absolutely. I think in this division, usually, though, these guys have extremely good endurance because they are just all skin and bones. But still, when you have that pressure from Chito Vera just like bashing you for 2 rounds, like it's still going to be exhausting. If Chito can get this to the third round, it's for sure going to be a big deal. Getting back to the fight times real quick. Yeah, the average time Sugar Show has fought is 8 minutes and 30 seconds. So about halfway through the second round. And Chito Vera is 10 minutes and 55 seconds. So he's used to getting people to the third round and just clearing them out almost right away. Mm-hmm. So Sugar Show's got to be careful coming into that third round. He's definitely got to pace himself throughout this fight. He's got to know when to pick his shots and when not to, which I think we've seen throughout his career. He's been very impressive with just kind of darting in and out, taking his time, moving how he wants to move, you know.
Yeah, he's got that fantastic shot selection.
Yeah, unlike, and not to go cross sports, but unlike some of the NBA players we see, like Lonzo Ball, for example, awful shot selection. I mean, he'd be a terrible UFC fighter.
I mean, in Lonzo's defense, you have to compare his bubble stats to his non-bubble stats. Because he was like shooting like 40% outside of the bubble, and then that dropped down to like 6% inside the
bubble. I mean, he had many games to figure it out, and he didn't figure it out at all. And JJ Redick was like, dude, do I have to shoot for you? This is ridiculous. But yeah, getting back to shot selection, punch selection. One thing we noticed looking at these stats, Sugar Show, he lands about 7 significant strikes per minute compared to Chito Vera's just 3.7. So that's going to be a huge factor. Sugar Show darts in, but he's extremely accurate and he lands a lot of big shots. Chito Vera is more likely to throw more punches that don't land. So it's really going to be important to see if Sugar Show can actually land his shots consistently. And if Chito can catch Sugar Show, because we know one thing about Sugar Show is his movement is very unorthodox. It's a lot like Anderson Silva a little bit, where he's kind of he's not traditional, where he's kind of doing all this rhythmic moving. He's kind of just bouncing around all randomly. He's dropping his hands occasionally. He's moving just so strangely. And it's really hard for a fighter to kind of get that rhythm and try to catch him.
Yeah, it's almost like he's baiting the fighters to throw these punches that he knows coming so he can react to them rather than reacting to the fighter throwing the punches himself. He's kind of forcing the fighter to throw punches that he knows is coming.
Yeah, in a sense, he's kind of a counter striker, not like traditionally, but he's more than anything. He's setting kind of how the movement's going to go, and he's seeing how the strikers are trying to catch him, and then he's coming back and popping them. What we saw against Eddie Wineland is he kind of was getting a feel of Eddie Wineland, and then he snuck this fake uppercut, and then he came over the top and slept him. So I could see something like that happening, where he kind of sees how Chito is trying to attack him, and then he sets up a move and then comes over the top or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, I guess if this fight stays on their feet, which I don't think it will, I think Sugar Show has it all day. But I think Marlon realizes this, and he's going to try to take it to the ground, especially where we haven't seen Sugar really at all.
Yeah, Sugar Show is going to have to try to defend as best as he can, try not to get taken to the ground. His takedown defense is 61% right now, which is not bad, but against Chito Vera, you really don't want to be taken to the ground against him.
Exactly.
Like, any chance he gets is dangerous for Sugar Show. So, yeah, the way the fight's looking is just like if Sugar Show stays on his feet, he's more than likely going to win. But if Chito can consistently take him to the ground, he's probably going to win. So the betting odds are complete bullshit. Like, this should be a lot closer than the expert, or I'm not even going to say experts, the fucking idiots over there, whoever's saying these
the odds at Vegas.
Yeah, whoever these people are, I don't know what they're looking at, but this should be a lot closer. But
do you read out the odds for me one more time?
Yeah, Sugar Show's negative 300, and then Marlo Vera's plus 230.
Plus 30. So Sugar Show is the favorite.
Yeah, it's kind of like the Shabazan fight. I think he was also negative 300 against like an experienced fighter in Brunson, and Brunson ended up winning by KO in the third. Maybe that's the same result today. Who knows? But the odds makers for these young stars have kind of just like always been wrong. Like
Yeah.
they've been buying too much into the hype.
I mean, it's not their fault because how the betting works is who people actually bet on it. So these people are really like everyone that's betting on them are jumping on the hype train. So therefore, the bettors have to accommodate for that, or the betting odds have to accommodate for people jumping on the hype train.
I gotcha. So it's more of just like the fans are jumping on the hype train way too much.
Yeah, which is probably why this gap is as big as what it probably started out as.
That makes sense. But I think we understand that Sugar Show is a star, and even if he loses this fight today, like he has great potential. But we were talking about earlier before the show, Sugar Show could kind of be the next big thing now that Conor McGregor has sat out and John Jones has sat out. For now, who knows? These guys keep retiring and unretiring, but he's the next big thing, and I think the UFC desperately needs this after Shabazan got beat. They need a younger, fresher face. Honestly, that has this much charisma and this much color, literally. They
love you, Joe Rogan.
Yeah, exactly. He's got that tie to Joe Rogan too. Like he's going to be on the podcast more often. You need that too. You need someone who's both great fighter, fun to watch, and at the same time, he's exciting to like interview as well. Not as exciting as Derek Lewis last week saying, I got to take a shit during the interview, but he's still very fun, interesting character. The fans are rooting for this win for sure. I'm sure Dana is also rooting for this win, but Marlon's no scrub. He's also exciting too. Like to see him win would be great too. He could be an up and coming star as well.
Yeah, I see it. If Sugar wins this fight, and then I see them really starting to push him as the next big star. Like I see the Dana White really probably giving him the title shot or a real close to the title shot. Like I see him taking him seriously. Like if he passes this test, I see Sugar Show really taking that next step to becoming the next Conor McGregor, the next Eddie Alvarez, the next Henry Cejudo, the next big thing.
Yeah, absolutely. He's coming in right now. He's number 14 in the bantamweight division. I think his team was saying if he wins this fight, he wants like a top 5 fight. And then after if he wins that next one, he'd be fighting that championship fight. So I think he might be counting his eggs a little bit, but he needs
it could be us counting them for him too.
Yeah, that's true. But it's kind of the thing is like, is a chicken before egg thing. Not to have 2 egg analogies in a row. Are like the fans are hyping him up, but at the same time he's buying into that hype. And it's kind of a cycle. He's cold for sure. He just needs to make sure he's coming to this fight not overlooking Chito Vera, or this could be a long night.
Yeah, has to look at his opponent in front of him, not his next two.
Yeah, I think Shabazan did that against Brunson. Everyone was saying Brunson's the gatekeeper, and he did exactly what he did. He said, "Do not pass." But Matt, let's just say our picks real quick, and then we'll move on to the main event. I got Sugar Show KOing Chito Vera in the second round. What do you have?
I have Sugar Show KOing him in the third round. But before we go, who is the champion of their division? Because Henry Cejudo retired.
Yeah, let me see who's the interim real quick. Let me look that up. Champ. I think it's still vacant to my knowledge. Um,
Before you look this up, Henry Cejudo, that man, he talks a lot of trash. Like, he can back it up, but like, you're starting to get into the big boy weights there, bud, with the 155, 165s that you're talking shit to now.
I know it's always funny seeing these little guys talking shit to the bigger guys.
He's like, I'm the best fighter there is. Sure, bud. Maybe add 30 pounds and then let me know how that goes.
Hold on one second. I'm still trying to find this. I think it's vacant. Maybe we can post the update later, but to my knowledge, it's vacant. Kind of having trouble finding this.
Yeah, I mean, they haven't had much time to find a replacement for him.
Yeah, and because of the COVID stuff, it's been hard to kind of schedule that next big fight. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But moving on, we got the Daniel Cormier, Stipe Miocic 3. This could go down as one of the biggest fights of all time, for sure. How are you feeling about this excitement level-wise, Matt?
Oh, this fight is going to be fantastic. I mean, the skill of Stipe compared to other heavyweights is just astronomical, and that's why he's defended his title like what 3 times and then got it back from DC. No, 4 times and got it back to DC. So he's had 5 title fights on it, and he's destroyed Ngannou. He's not really destroyed, just he's beaten Ngannou.
He handled Ngannou.
That's destroyed. He handled Ngannou. He can strike with the big boys. He can wrestle with them. He can do the takedowns. He's just a complete fighter.
Yeah, these two guys are going to go down as probably Hall of Fame heavyweights. They're the 2 heavyweights that really made this division legit. Like before, well, originally it was basically just roided dudes hitting each other. But it eventually got to a thing where it's just like, okay, these guys are able to grapple now along with striking, but guys are still kind of getting knocked out early. These guys showed that like you can be a complete fighter across the board. You can have good cardio, you can wrestle, you can strike, you can do all those things, and you can also last the championship rounds.
That's what I was about to say. Like you said, they have good cardio. Yeah, these 2 fighters are the only ones that it seems like after round 1 they still have like almost a full tank. It's not where after round 1 you're like, oh my gosh, why am I watching these 2 worms flop around?
Yeah, it's kind of still, I have a little bit of a critique of some of the other guys in the division, like especially Derek Lewis, who had an impressive win last week. He was already getting exhausted by the first round.
Yep, he's like, I am tired, but I'm gonna land this one hit and you're gonna get knocked out.
Yes, I literally think he's thinking in his mind, he's like, I want to go home. Let me just finish this real quick. Let me head out.
All right, I'm gonna head out.
Exactly. But these 2 guys, they're vets. They're getting to the end of their road. I know DC said he's going to retire after this. Steve, there's been rumors with him of retiring. We don't know what's going to happen when these 2 guys leave. The division might take a hit after this because they may not have the skill set. Like Derek Lewis doesn't have the cardio. Francis Ngannou doesn't have the wrestling. Like we may not have those complete fighters for the next couple years. Who knows? This might be the last taste of 2 goats fighting in the ring in the heavyweight.
2 great heavyweights.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because Ngannou's fun to watch, but he just all he has is that knockout power. He doesn't really have much technique other than that.
Yeah, we saw that against Stipe. That's kind of why I said handled. Ngannou tried his best to knock Stipe out, but Stipe is just a vet. He avoided the shots. He wore Ngannou down, and he just handled him in the later rounds. It was almost easy for him. And I think DC has said the same thing too. He would make it a very easy against Ngannou because Ngannou could just not deal with that wrestling ability. He's not used to someone just grappling from for 4 to 5 rounds.
That's true, but on the counterpoint, Ngannou still does have a lot of raw power, and I think that was evident in the after effects of the DC Stipe first fight, because I honestly believe that Stipe wasn't fully recovered from the Ngannou fight when he fought DC the first time. Looking at DC's record, he says one no contest. That's bullshit. He's got 3 losses, and they're all to goats. So that's pretty impressive on his part. But I mean, you say that DC was doing solid in the second fight, but I the way I saw it, Stipe was winning that second fight, and I honestly, if Stipe had 2 more months of recovery, I think he wins the first fight too.
Yeah, I can see that happening too. Like, obviously, that's kind of sucked to go from Nagano to DC. That second fight, though, I totally disagree with you. I think DC won 3 of those 4 rounds. He was doing the exact same thing he was doing in the first fight. He was just beating Stipe up. But to Stipe's credit, he switched up his game plan and he was working more of the body of DC. He's doing a lot of leg kicks to the body, which that's always been a problem for DC, is that chubby little body he has. And Stipe was able to flip the switch real quick. We'll see in this third fight what exactly the route will go. Will it be like the first or the second fight, or will it be a completely different fight? Diving into what this third fight could be, let's quickly just look at their records and their measurables, and then we'll kind of go in a deep dive of how this could go. DC comes in as 22-2 record and 1 no contest to the GOATs.
22-3.
Yeah, he's basically 22-3, but there's a lot of that was just kind of a big mess that was never really straightened out. Stipe Miocic comes in as 19-3 record. He has the 1 loss to DC, and then his other losses, they don't necessarily count. They're extremely early in his career. Kind of like a lot of fighters you see, they come into the UFC and they already have losses. They're playing in these other promotions. There's just a lot of different rules, a lot of different dynamics. They're younger fighters, stuff like that. Like, they weren't the champs that they were now. So really, these guys are the GOATs. Like, they have great records. Their losses don't necessarily matter, except for DC's losses to John Jones and the one to Stipe.
Not
and
my GOAT.
Yeah, not your GOAT. And Stipe's 1 loss to DC's the only one that really matters. Look at their measurables. DC obviously is the short, pudgy dude. He comes in at 5'11". I think it had him at 242. It was incorrect on UFC's website originally. But yeah, he comes in at 242. Stipe 6'5", 242 as well. Stipe is the lot bigger reach, 80-inch reach advantage. DC has the 72.5-inch reach. So, sorry, 8-inch reach advantage from Stipe, not 80-inch. This isn't King Kong. That would be ridiculous.
Look Mr. Fantastic out there.
Exactly. So you're not winning that fight, no. One thing to note with the reach advantage, the cage today is in Las Vegas. It's a 25-foot cage, so it's a little bit smaller than usual. So that reach advantage is going to get cut down a little bit, and that kind of plays the DC a little bit more.
Yeah, just not as much space to really utilize it.
Yeah, absolutely. It's not that much of a difference, but like, you can see it in these Vegas fights compared to like the Fight Island fights, which had the regular size rings. Guys will just get to the fence a little bit quicker, and they'll grapple a little bit quicker than usual. So that plays the DC for sure. Matt, looking at just kind of, I think everyone kind of knows what their strengths and weaknesses are, but do you just kind of want to recap them real quick for the people that don't know?
Yeah, I mean, before DC got into the UFC, he was an Olympian grappler, so he definitely has the advantage in the wrestling jiu-jitsu aspect. But Stipe's got the height advantage. I don't know if you mentioned that too, but DC isn't even 6 foot. He's 5'11", while Stipe's 6'4", at least on the website I'm looking at.
Yeah, he's 6'5" from what I have. He's probably in between, but yeah, that height disadvantage, it can flip the other way if you're like Conor McGregor against Donald Cerrone, where you can throw kind of those shoulder strikes, but it's such a big gap. Like it really is a big disadvantage for DC. He's got punch higher. Stipe's got the longer legs. He's got the longer reach. He can keep the fight at bay. And DC wants to make it close, so it makes it more difficult for him. We know DC's the great wrestler. His striking is also very impressive. He's got heavy hands. We know that. All that fat body weight he's slanging around with those punches. Stipe is known as an expert striker, but his grappling is also pretty good too. Both these guys, like we said, are all around. They're really good.
Yeah, they're very well rounded. I'd say that Stipe has the advantage in his shot selection, while DC has the advantage in wrestling.
Yeah, I think so. Statistics wise, Stipe has 15 wins by knockout. DC does have 10 wins by knockout, but he also has 5 by submission. I think Stipe only has like 2 or 3, or the rest are by decision. Looking at how this fight could go, this is going to be a 5-round fight. Do you see this going decision? Do you see one guy getting KO'd? Because that's what happened in the first 2 fights. Where do you see this going?
I just because it's heavyweight and who is fighting, I think they have like what of their combined 40 fights, maybe 3 have gone to decision total. So I definitely don't see them going to decision, and honestly, I don't even see them going to the championship rounds. I got Stipe winning by knockout in the 3rd.
Oh, wow. So you got Stipe win the 3rd. I got DC winning in the 4th. That's interesting that you think that this is not going to go to championship rounds. You think Stipe is going to win this quicker. The way I see it, I think they've had 2 fights against each other. They've had all this time to study tape and stuff like that. They're going to know everything that they could throw at each other. Like, they're going to know the advantages, the disadvantages, like we talked about. They're going to know how they like to set up punches, all these different things. And they're veteran fighters. I don't think they're going to be bringing in anything new to the fights. Like, that's kind of why I see this going to the 4th round. I think they're going to be neck and neck for 3 rounds, and they're really going to have each other's numbers. Like, it's going to be very difficult for DC to take Stipe to the ground. It's going to be very difficult for Stipe to land some KO punches on DC. It's just going to be kind of going back and forth. These guys are going to know how to defend against each other and protect themselves. I think eventually, though, I think DC is going to be able to land some bombs in the 4th and eventually KO Stipe. That's just the way I see the fight. But you see Stipe winning in the 3rd.
In the 3rd. I see Stipe winning in the 3rd just because DC hasn't fought since that last fight. Stipe's had 1 fight since then. And I think DC being 41 years old is huge. I think that will really take a toll on his body, especially in this sport. He can't be like Tom Brady in the pocket where he's not getting hit, so his body isn't taking that damage. I feel like he's really like a true 50-year-old at this point with all the damage he's taken.
A 50-year-old that could beat our ass.
I wasn't saying that.
Stipe, I think, is like 37 now. So he's old too, but obviously he's a little bit younger, tad bit younger. He hasn't fought as many fights, but like 2 fights. Yeah, I think Stipe might have the advantage when it comes to just freshness and cardio, stuff like that.
Yeah, I just don't see DC in his age being able to maintain that pace for the full 5 rounds. And 4th round, I think if they does make it to that round, he's going to be completely gassed. And I feel like Stipe is going to play onto this and then try to play more conservatively, save his energy while making DC expend his.
See, I'm kind of looking at it from DC doing the same perspective. I think he's going to be taking his time, being very methodical for the first 2 rounds, I say. Start to turn on in the 3rd and then finish in the 4th. I can see both these guys being methodical, honestly. Kind of like what I said. They know what each guy is going to do. So they're going to be kind of filling each other out through the whole fight, seeing like, oh, this is what they really want to try. Um, but getting back to your point about you think DC's going to be worn down, he's used to fighting these long fights, though. He's fought many championship fights. His average fight time's 13 minutes. I know he's older, but like he's so used to this at this point. I still think he can survive at least the fourth round. I think fifth round, I think you'd be right. I think fifth round, he's not going to have that conditioning, that cardio at the point. I think Stipe would win if this drags out to the fifth.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe even like halfway through the fourth. I think that's why DC is going to turn on the third, and then the fourth, he's got to get the quick finish. I think he's going to try to knock him out early in the fourth within the first 2 minutes.
Yeah, I just think that Stipe is going to take a similar strategy and attack the body to really hurt his stamina and cardio.
Yeah, and DC knows it's coming. I'm sure he's been training to take those body shots, but that is the thing with a veteran fighter. I think I'm trying to think who it was. It might have been Anderson Silva, but I think he was worn down over the years of leg kicks. And then not only did he snap his leg one fight, but I think he had another fight after that where he was just taking shots to the leg. Eventually got worn down by a much younger fighter. I could see the same thing with DC, where his body just gets worn down and then Stipe overpowers him.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I got it KO fourth round. You got KO third round. Either way, it's going to be a very crazy fight. It's going to be tough to see either of these guys go down, honestly, because I'm such a big fan of both these guys at this point. They are the GOATs of the heavyweight. This could be the end for either of them. But before we kind of wrap things up, Matt, how big of a deal do you think it is that DC knows he's retiring after this fight? How much do you think that plays a role in this?
I mean, that honestly could go either way. It could put more pressure on him because he realizes this is his last fight and he wants to do well, and that could hurt him. Or it could give him that drive, that motivation to want to go out on top, want to go out with a win, So I mean, it really could go either way, but I definitely think it does have an effect on the fight.
Yeah, I think it might be a negative for him, honestly. He's been comparing himself to like Michael Jordan, that first retirement. He's been comparing himself to who was it, Peyton Manning, who went out after winning a Super Bowl. You never want to come in as a fighter kind of with that expectation, like you're going to win this and you're going to go out on top. Then it puts in your mind, it's just like, I got to get this finish. I got to win now. I need to press right now. Like it's not a good mindset to have, I don't think. But at the same time, I think Stipe also has it in his mind that like he's almost done soon. So that might play effects on him too.
Yeah. The stress and the nerves of you'll probably be more prone to make a mistake with that mentality. But I could also see DC having like an opposite effect of that mentality of, hey, look, this is my last chance to go out on top. Like, if I lose here, I'm done. I will be remembered as this will be the last thing that people remember me in the UFC, and like have that drive and motivation in training, and then in the fight he knows that he's ready to go.
Yeah, both these guys' legacy is on the line. If DC loses this, he's going to be remembered as one of the greatest of all time, but he's also going to be remembered as losing to John Jones and losing to Stipe twice, and that's a tough thing. It's kind of like if you look at like GOATs, you look at like Peyton Manning, how he had some Super Bowls, but like he's always going to be remembered as behind Tom Brady.
Mm-hmm.
And that could be the same thing as for DC. He's going to be remembered as behind Stipe and behind John Jones if he doesn't get this win.
Well, he's always going to be remembered as behind John Jones.
Well, yes. Unless he comes out of retirement. John Jones also comes out of retirement and they fight. But I don't see that happening. But yeah, this is for sure going to be one of the greatest fights of all time. we are hyping this up for sure because I think it's going to live up to the hype.
Oh, I definitely agree. These two are people that will deliver. It's not going to be like the Usman Masvidal fight where these people have had their time to train. It's not going to be boring. They know each other. It's going to be an entertaining fight. This card is going to be an entertaining card. I would highly recommend it just based on Sugar Show and DC. Those two fights, in my opinion, is worth the pay-per-view.
Yeah, this is going to be a great card. It's going to be on tonight at 9 o'clock Central Time, 8 o'clock Matt's time in New Mexico. It's on ESPN. It's ESPN Mountain Time, yes. It's a ESPN Plus pay-per-view. So I think it's $65. That does it for our T3S fight preview. We'll be tweeting out our full predictions later today. So if you just want to see the shorthand kind of what we picked and kind of want to debate us in the comments, we'd be happy to do that. Yeah, that does it for our show. Follow us on Twitter and Instagram at Texas 3-Step. And then check out our podcast, Texas 3-Step Podcast on Spotify, now Apple Podcasts, and also YouTube.